in pursuit of health and wisdom. Sapio with Buck Joffrey.
Welcome back to Sapio with Buck Joffrey. This is Buck Joffrey, and today my guest is Keren Etkin. She's a gerontologist, an entrepreneur, and author, and founder and director of Age Label, an interdisciplinary R&D center at Shankar College for Design, Engineering, and Art. She advises early-stage age tech startups and elder care organizations looking to bring innovation into their organization, and she runs the Age Tech Academy. Previously, Keren was co-founded Sensi.ai, which developed the first and only AI-based solution for remote care monitoring in the long-term care industry. She's also the author of The Age Tech Revolution, a book about the intersection of aging and technology. Keren, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for inviting me back. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, so we usually talk about trying not to age, but at least right now, there's an inevitability about the aging process, at least for the foreseeable future. So maybe you could just broadly speak about how technology is impacting aging right now.
Sure. So what we see is, as you said, is the aging process is inevitable right now. And we have this unprecedented demographic shift. Never before in the history of the human race have we had so many people reach old age, 80s, 90s. Some people live up to 100 years old. And so there's this new stage of life that people are largely unprepared for. And this is where technology comes into play to help people basically live their best life for as long as they are on this earth, whether that is through certain digital health and wellness technologies, or whether that's through better financial planning tools, or whether it's just technology that help people have fun in this new chapter of life.
Got it. So let's talk about specifically today, what are some of the technologies that are being used that impact the older population? Maybe things that that are a little bit more cutting edge that most of us don't even know about.
So one of the things that I'm most passionate about is robotics, because I believe that when I'm older, the way that the demography works is if I need assistance with my ADLs, my activities of daily living, chances are that I will not have a human caregiver available just because of the way that demography works. And so I'm a firm believer that we will have more robots and more automation in our homes to delegate a lot of the manual labor that human caregivers are currently doing, thus freeing human caregivers to do more of the things that are uniquely human, like providing companionship and emotional support. We already see that with, I guess, robot mops and robot vacuums, but we will have robots doing much more sophisticated stuff in the future.
Like what kinds of things are you thinking about? Like what kinds of things would be more sophisticated that we can't really think about right now?
We can think about it because we've seen it at CES, right? We've seen robots at CES who sort of fold laundry or cook meals for us. So those are the things that typically you wouldn't think that a robot might be able to do, but people are already working on robots to do just that. And it's really not something that you necessarily need a human to be able to do, because it's not something that it is inherently unique about human capabilities. We're better at other stuff, I think.
Yeah. So one of the things that, you mentioned that, sort of the specific task of what you think robots should be doing. So they're not there necessarily to replace caregivers, but provide sort of, the non-emotional, some of the warmth or human connection that people need as they get older, right?
Absolutely. We do see many companies already developing social robots, whether they look like objects or whether they look like pets. And these robots do serve a purpose to provide companionship to people who don't have the humans readily available to them 24/7 a day. I mean, some of these robots are able to bridge the digital divide and help humans interact better by enabling video calls and text messages. But some of them are just there to be like this new type of companion, not to replace humans, but rather to be there when humans can't be. Because we know, unfortunately, that there are people who don't have anyone, right? Not everyone has family and friends. People do get lonely, especially when people live a very long life, and sometimes people aren't able to leave their homes for months, if not years. So there is like this new variety of robots that is able to sort of bridge those gaps.
Yeah. So is that sort of, I guess one of the questions is like, what does that look like? And what do we know about humans and their ability to bond with robots? For example, we know that, AI has a lot of capability. We know that even if you look at Chat, 4.0 or whatever you call it, right now it can actually have a conversation with you, right? It can have a real conversation with you. I guess the question is, do we have any sense of how that really imprints on human beings? As we know, and as I'm sure you well know, there is a significant, component of loneliness that the elderly deal with. That's sort of an epidemic, in which is probably one of the causes of mortality, ultimately. So, do we have any sense of these bonds, if they can be perceived as real, and if they actually have any benefit on quality of life in the elderly?
Well, the interesting thing about technology in our devices is that we do get attached to those. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for many people, your smartphone is almost like an appendage, right? Where we
Right.
get emotionally attached to stuff. We've done this for years. And so when we suddenly have like this new variety of technology, whether that's ChatGPT or a social robot that actually has a physical presence that is able to interact with us, we do get attached. And so whether that's a pet robot that is able to mimic some of what a cat or dog might do for you in terms of providing this sense of physical comfort when you pet it, and the robot cat purrs, or that's a social robot that is able to hold a conversation and tell you jokes and asks you, hey Buck, how did you sleep last night? Because I remember like the day before you told me you didn't sleep so well. Did you sleep okay last night? We do get attached, and it does provide some sort of companionship. It does provide some sort of comfort, and those types of robots are able to alleviate some of those feelings of loneliness. Because, I mean, for people who live alone for years, sometimes that robotic companion is all they have. Like, it's that the
Yeah.
only thing on earth that asks them how did you sleep, and reacts to them and acknowledges their presence. And so, like I said, it's not designed to replace humans, but rather to bridge those gaps, because the reality is loneliness, as you said, is an epidemic, and it does impact people's not just people's emotional well-being, but also their physical health. People who are socially isolated and lonely are at an increased risk of morbidity and even death, even for young people, by the way.
Yeah. How far along are we in that technology? That sort of more social companionship robot.
I would say we're pretty far along, just because, as you said, with the emergence of ChatGPT, suddenly these robots are able to hold a conversation
Uh-huh.
in a way that they were not able to do in the past. And so, and we see this in science fictions. It's so funny that life imitates art, because we have examples from science fiction about people like falling in love with their AI companions, and it could happen in reality, because with this new technology of generative AI, they are able to hold a conversation, sometimes better than humans even.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. So, what drives this whole tech aging marketplace? Is it the elderly? Is it the children with aging parents? Is it big healthcare, or what's really driving it all?
So first and foremost, this massive demographic shift that sort of goes in parallel with the digital transformation that our society is going through, right? Because everything in our lives has gone digital over the past few years, especially since COVID. And that sort of corresponds with the longevity economy, which means that older adults these days hold a significant amount of wealth in the trillions of dollars when we look at it globally. And so when tech companies and when startups and venture capital funds are sort of exploring trends that are worth diving into, they see this reality, and that sort of is those are the underlying trends that feed this ecosystem, and that's why we've seen not just hundreds, if not thousands, of age tech startups throughout the world, but also we see many venture capital funds and accelerators diving into this, and even big tech companies. We see offerings for older adults from Amazon and Apple all the time.
Yeah. Like what are some of those things? I mean, for people who maybe don't have exposure to elderly.
So, for example, your Apple Watch is now able to detect falls. It has been able to do so for a number of years. And so that is available for everyone, right? And it's not just useful for older adults who are over the age of 65. 1 out of 4 people falls every year. It's not just for older adults, but it's also for people who like hiking by themselves. So if you fall down, your Apple Watch detects that you've fallen down. It will ask you, hey, Buck, are you okay? And if you don't respond, it will alert emergency services and it will send them your location so someone will come rescue you. And it has proven to save lives. That's just one example. Alexa has their offering of Alexa Together and their emergency call service, which connects with third-party fall detection sensor that can be mounted on the walls in your home. And those are just, like I said, there's just examples. We have so much right now that never existed 10 or 15 years ago.
It's funny, my Apple Watch doesn't seem to care if I fall on my hikes or not. It doesn't ask me anything.
maybe it's an opt-in feature for you.
Maybe, or maybe my watch just doesn't like me. What are some of the hurdles to understand the technology, that's more useful than others? And how do you determine that? And I guess how much of, the longevity, the idea that people are going to continue to live longer and longer, maybe better. How does that affect that?
So it basically means that the opportunity just keeps growing because life expectancy is growing. It's not unlikely that you and I will live to be 100 years old, right? And so we have to think about how we want to live our lives and how technology sort of assists us to live our best life. And it's also important to understand that the reason why we need so much innovation in this space is because sort of at this new phase of life, it's sort of almost a decumulation phase, right? You're no longer accumulating assets and real estate and academic degrees. You might be more interested at spending time with family and friends, staying healthy, extending your financial lifespan, your financial wealth span. And so when we think about technologies for all of these challenges, it's important to understand that it's not a one size fits all. And that is why there's so much room for innovation here, because if we look at the, fall detection, for example, which is a fairly saturated market, I would say, because we have so many offerings in the wearable and home sensor space, each and every one of them has a place in the market because they serve different people, they serve different needs, they may have different business models. And so, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So how expensive are these things going to be? I mean, is this going to be, do you think that robots are, and it sounds like an expensive thing, right? And so maybe is this technology really just for the affluent elderly, or is this something that you anticipate will be, broadly available?
That is a great question, and you're bringing up a valid point. Technology is expensive, especially when it's new. $1,000 phone is not something everyone can afford, and neither is $1,000 robot. However, we see, first of all, that when mass production comes into play, there is the possibility to lower costs, but also we see new business models. So we see healthcare providers, for example, who understand that some of these technologies help them reduce costs, basically, and help people live healthier lives for longer. And they are able to cover some of these technologies and offer them as benefits to members. And we see insurance providers who have innovation departments looking for technologies that will help them basically improve the lives of their policyholders and improve their own bottom lines, right? Because they're a for-profit business at the end of the day. And so, yes, for the individual consumer who is on a fixed income, because that is the reality for most people after retirement, some of these solutions might be expensive, but there are already business models that make these solutions either affordable or basically make them available to people at no cost, so you don't have to spend anything out of pocket for some of these solutions.
Do you have some ideas on like some of the things that insurance is actually covering already in terms of elder tech? I'm actually a little surprised that they would, but I mean it's good to hear. But I'm just curious if you know some of the things that they're already covering.
Sure. So obviously the most obvious solutions are in like the wellness space. The wellness space. So online fitness classes for older adults that help them improve balance, strength, and mobility and help reduce falls. Some of those are covered by Medicare Advantage plans. And we also see pop-up health, for example, which are people who are supposed to or can provide companionship and all sorts of like small, tiny services like rides and helping people go to the grocery store and help them with technology. Some of those are even covered by, again, Medicare Advantage plans, because the healthcare plans now understand that having a social support system is an important social determinant of health. And I believe that we will see that also with internet connection at home, because according to the United States government, having broadband internet in your home is also a social determinant of health. So I expect that we'll see even healthcare plans covering internet connection in the near future. So it's getting wider. That's, I guess, my point.
Yeah. How far do you think this goes in terms of robotics? I mean, like I can see a future where, you know, if you're really getting into robotics and that sort of thing, that it actually starts to intersect into actual longevity, right? Like into actual physical longevity as well. Is that part of what you're seeing in that space right now?
Yes, so we've seen multiple startups. Obviously, we've all seen exoskeletons that typically are designed to help paraplegics.
Yeah, so the exoskeletons, explain that. So it's basically, you know, for somebody theoretically who, you know, what you're talking about right now is for paraplegics or even with amputees or whatever, you could have, you know, this ability to walk around, do things, and you can see that potentially for elderly, right?
Absolutely. And we already see startups who are working to embed nanorobots or use electromagnetic or electrocurrency to help stimulate the muscles. So that's like already embedded in clothes that to the naked eye, you don't see that it's any different than your regular workout clothes. And I expect that these technologies will only get better. And there's really no reason why we couldn't use existing technologies to help people as they grow older.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the big issue in all those, again, is probably related to cost, right? I mean, otherwise, these nursing homes would be full of exoskeletons pretty much, right?
Yeah, we already see in Europe, for example, exoskeletons being used by staff, because we know that one of the leading causes for staff turnover in this space is injuries, because they have to lift and carry patients all day. And so when we use exoskeletons in nursing homes and even in hospitals, that reduces the risk of injuries for staff. And there is no reason, as these things become ubiquitous, that they can't be used in the home after they have sort of able to like make the technology less heavy and more maybe embedded in our clothes.
Yeah,
I think that's what we'll end up with.
Yeah, that sounds really fascinating. So the book you have is The Age Tech Revolution, a book about the intersection of aging and technology. What are some of the main points in there that we have not covered today? I want to make sure we're being complete.
So first and foremost, if we haven't discussed this already, the book sort of talks about how much of an opportunity the space is. It's such a blue ocean these days, and there's so much opportunity yet. And also, we haven't dived into some of the themes revolving around what the future of our homes could look like, because I think that is also a huge opportunity, and not just for people who develop technology, but also for real estate developers to really create the home of the future. When we think about it, the way that our homes have been, they've been the same for decades. Nothing has changed significantly since the introduction of electricity and indoor plumbing. And I think that our homes could be such an enabler for aging in place, because at the end of the day, most people prefer to live in their home for the rest of their lives. So why not take all this wonderful technology that is already available and have it already embedded in the home? So when people buy their home, it could serve them to 100 years old. So that is sort of one of the things that we talk about in the book. And yeah, I do encourage everyone who's looking for the next opportunity. If there are any entrepreneurs in the audience, I do encourage you to look into this space, because it really is a blue ocean.
Yeah, one of the things I think about sometimes is, as it relates to your the social aspect of this, it seems to me that there's an opportunity to build communities differently too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we see this, we have examples from Europe, for example, of like walkable cities that not only are safer and healthier, because if you walk everywhere, you are healthier, but actually allow for the city allows for places that people can gather and have like this frequent social interaction on a daily basis. That really goes a long way towards creating communities in which people care about each other, in which older adults feel appreciated and feel like even though they don't have to go to work every day, they're still part of society. They're still a valued member of society, and the people around them care about them. And if they, go a week without going to their local greengrocer, the local greengrocer will notice and say, "Hey, Sarah, where have you been? I haven't seen you for a whole week." And then she'll say, "I was visiting my daughter overseas, or I was down with the flu." But she will feel seen, she will feel valued. And I really think that goes a long way towards enabling a healthier and happier life for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, the book is The Age Tech Revolution, a book about the intersection of aging and technology. Keren, thank you so much for being on Sapio.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Buck. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks for listening to Sapio with Buck Joffrey. A quick reminder that while I am, in fact, a surgeon, nothing I say should be construed as medical advice. Now, make sure to include your physician in any medical decisions you make. And also, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure to show your support with a like, share, or subscribe. Until next time, this is Buck Joffrey for Sapio with Buck Joffrey.